Evening, UAW. Good evening, UAW family. I'm going to be brief because time's of the essence. For the past 24 hours, we've been actively bargaining with Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. For the first time in our union's history, we had all three companies bargaining right here at the Solidarity House, leading into the final hours of our strike deadline. We've been working hard trying to reach a deal for economic and social justice for our members. We have been firm. We are committed to winning an agreement with the Big Three that reflects the incredible sacrifice and contributions UAW members have made to these companies. We've been open. The companies, the members, and the public know that what we've been fighting for. And we've been clear. Midnight on the evening of September 14th is a deadline. UAW family, that deadline is nearly here. Tonight, for the first time in our history, we will strike all three of the Big Three at once. We are using a new strategy, the stand-up strike. We will call on select facilities, locals, or units to stand up and go on strike.
This is important because, this scares the shit out of the Big Three automakers because, they're actually targeting places that are important for the, entire industry. They're not just hitting, bing, boom, 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 randomly. This is actually targeted to fuck with production. So this is a new strategy. And that's why I read an article from CNBC earlier, basically saying, oh, this is bad for the UAW. This is illegal, blah, 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 blah. Welcome to the fucking struggle, man.
Tonight, we call on three units to stand up and go on strike at midnight if we do not reach a tentative agreement in the next 2 hours. We're calling
midnight's in 15 minutes.
On GM, Wentzville Assembly, Local 2250.
That's an STL shout out. Wentzville is in the St. Louis metropolitan area.
In Region 4 to stand up and strike. We're calling on Stellantis, Toledo Assembly Complex, Local 12 in Region 2B to stand up and strike. And we're calling on Ford, Michigan Assembly Plant, Final Assembly and Paint only, Local 900 in Region 1A to stand up and strike. These three units are being called to stand up and walk out on strike at midnight tonight. The locals that are not yet called to join the stand-up strike will continue working under an expired agreement. No contract extensions. Though the contract is expired, most of your contract is still in effect. Management cannot change terms and conditions of work in your workplace. You do not become an employee at will. You cannot be fired or disciplined for no reason. This strategy will keep the companies guessing. It will give our national negotiators maximum.
So he's displaying a very developed and advanced grasp of strategy and tactics. I love this dude.
Leverage.
If you had told me I'd be saying this about a UAW head 5 years ago, I'd probably laugh at you or worse. Odd times we live in.
And flexibility in bargaining. And if we need to go all out, we will. Everything is on the table. I encourage you to visit uaw.org/standup for everything you need to know about working under an expired contract. No matter what, all of us need to keep organizing. Rallies, protests, red shirt days, and community events. We must show the companies you are ready to join the stand-up strike at a moment's notice. And we must show the world that our fight is a righteous fight. Again, tonight at midnight, GM Wentzville Assembly, Local 2250 in Region 4, Stellantis Toledo Assembly Complex, Local 12 in Region 2B, and Ford, Michigan Assembly Plant, final assembly and paint only, Local 900 in Region 1A, will stand up and walk out on strike. The rest of us will keep organizing and support them on the picket line. If we strike tonight, I'll see you on the picket line at Michigan Assembly at midnight. Tomorrow, we'll be holding a mass rally at the UAW Ford Joint Trust Building in downtown Detroit at 4 p.m. We will show our strength and unity on the first day of this historic action. All options remain on the table. National leadership will determine the appropriate targets and timing for further stand-up strike action. This is our generation's defining moment. The money is there, the cause is righteous, the world is watching, and the UAW is ready to stand up. This is our defining moment. Thank you.
So, bit of history of the UAW. Like, they developed their union in the 30s through a mass action called the Flint sit-down strike. If I recall correctly, Sakai had some critiques of it. Basically saying it was a Jim Crow strike. So, yeah, the UAW has a horrible history of racism. As a matter of fact, the Detroit Revolutionary Union movement called it "You Ain't White." Like, that was their definition of the UAW because it was horrible to black workers. But now, black workers are taking the lead. So this was the main like catalyst for the organization of UAW, United Automobile Workers, as we know it. It changed the UAW from a collection of isolated local unions on the fringes of the industry into a major labor union and led to the unionization of the domestic automobile industry. So, there was, of course, armed struggle. National Guardsmen come to kill strikers, which was very common back then. If you know anything about labor history, you'll also be familiar with the Battle of Blair Mountain. But it was probably one of the most advanced labor actions in American history. So that's what built the UAW. Like, that was their introduction to the American working class. And now they're continuing in that legacy and that spirit of struggle. Is the National Guard going to be out in Detroit and Wentzville and Toledo shooting people? Absolutely not. But the militancy in the history of this organization seems to have been like, you have black people, a united working class out here actually making this thing real. This isn't a bullshit strike. This isn't a Jim Crow strike. This isn't a xenophobic strike. This is workers coming together and being like, you know what, fuck this. So
Everything working people have ever won, we've won.
like, you have a UAW president literally quoting Malcolm X, which I'm going to show you later. Like, that would have never happened. That would not have happened in the days of fucking Walter Reuther. So it's come a remarkably long way since the days of Jim Crow bullshit strikes and exclusion of black workers from higher paid, less dangerous positions. Why? Because Detroit is a heavily black city and industry is heavily black. So you cannot just shut us out like you used to. So these unions, which were unfortunately formerly extremely racist and exclusionary, now they've realized that they've had to include and promote the interests of black workers first and foremost. Because, like, without us, you ain't got shit.
One together. Today, America's auto workers are in the fight of our lives. The fight for a decent standard of living. the fight for wages that grow with inflation, the fight to retire with dignity, the fight to protect our communities against plant closures, the fight for better work-life balance so we can see our children grow up and our parents grow old. Winning these demands will take all of us fighting together. It will take a return to our roots. Collective action gave birth to our great union. After years of facing down company thugs, spies, and anti-union laws that favored big business, the auto workers in Flint, Michigan took decisive action. In 1937, they occupied General Motors plants and set off an organizing firestorm in our country. After a few tense months, GM Auto Workers emerged victorious. They had won their union and a contract. The creativity, discipline, and defiant spirit of auto workers was contagious. The sit-down strike sparked a strike wave that quickly spread across the entire working class, everywhere from auto
Look, black workers in the forefront.
plants to department stores. Nearly 400
This is why I laugh at like those third worldist types who are like, there is no revolutionary potential in the United States. It's like, where the fuck have you been? Yeah, if you're isolated on fucking if you're isolated, then yeah, if you just sit on fucking Harvard University or Yale University or MIT campus and don't do anything and don't engage in class struggle and don't talk to ordinary workers, and you only watch television and watch the horrible things that are going on television, then yeah, you're going to believe that there's no revolutionary potential in the United States because you're not there. You're not involved in struggle. But if you're involved in struggle, if you do work, if you actually are around average, ordinary, everyday motherfuckers every day, you will realize that people are angry, people are tired, and that leads to shit like this. It led to the Flint sit-down strike, which launched a wave of struggle, and now it's leading to the stand-up strike.
100,000 workers across the U.S. participated in sit-down strikes in 1937, giving birth to a new industrial labor movement. We are once again returning to our roots and reclaiming our tradition of holding the line for working people against unchecked corporate power. That is why we are launching a new kind of strike against Ford, GM, and Stellantis. This is our generation's answer to the sit-down strike of the 1930s. We're calling it the stand-up strike. This is a strike that starts small and builds over time as more and more of us stand up and join the fight. This is a strike that keeps the companies guessing as to where and when the next local will walk out. And just as importantly, we are striking the big three, all three. We told them September 14th is a deadline, and we meant it. The big three have made $250 billion over the last 10 years. They made $21 billion in profits in the first half of this year alone. We will not stand by as corporate executives in the rich continue to make extraordinary profits while the rest of us continue to get left further and further behind. And I want to be clear, our goal is not to strike. Our goal is to bargain a fair contract. But if we have to strike to win economic and social justice, then we will shut down the big three. We are not afraid to fight for what we deserve. We will stand up for ourselves. We will stand up for our families. We will stand up for our communities. So UAW family, be ready. If your local is called to stand up, I know you'll meet the moment, just like the generations that came before us did. While some of us are on the picket line, the rest of us will keep organizing our coworkers and our communities. Show management that you are prepared to join the stand-up strike. This is our generation's defining moment. Let's stand up for ourselves and the working class. Let's stand up for future generations.
So this is extremely important. Like, he's using class struggle language. He's not just saying, let's get a better contract for our union. He's saying, let's stand up for the entire working class. It would have been better if he said global working class, but you get what you get. So a lot of people, a lot of Maoists in particular, view unions as being like the labor aristocracy. Basically, they're bought out, and all they do is strike for economistic reasons. So, can we call this a political strike? No, but it has the potential to go that way. And part of the reason that I was inspired to join DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, is because, like, we have actual links to unions, okay? If you're talking about which left organization has organized the most organized workers or is helping to organize workers, it's DSA. It's not some tiny Maoist or Trotskyite sect. So, if we're talking about pushing unions, if we're talking about pushing workers left, the only way to do that is actually by being involved with and struggling alongside their unions. And in the United States, at least, when you look at who's doing the on-the-ground work, it's DSA. No, I'm not going to put a rose in my Twitter bio or on my YouTube channel because I hate fucking roses. They stink. But, plus, I'm not a social democrat. Neither is most of DSA, by the way.
Let's stand up for economic and social justice. Let's stand up and once again make history together.
It's just time to get down to business. You know, we want our fair.
Again, black workers in the forefront because Flint, Michigan, Wayne, Detroit, like these are heavily black cities.
Share. You know,
so there could be no talk of a union movement in any part of this country, really, without organizing black and Latino workers, because without black and Latino workers, you have no union.
We gave up a lot of stuff when the auto industry had its crash a few years ago. You know, we gave it up willingly. Now it's just time for them to give it back willingly. You know, the CEOs making billions of dollars, and we can't even afford the cars we build. So it's just time for us to get back what's ours. That's all.
What has it been like in the plant leading up to today, you know, throughout the week, just following negotiations? How do you feel it's been going, and what has the mood been like?
It's been a lot of faith in our UAW. You know, we got great leadership nationally and locally. They've always kept us informed, always kept us prepared. So now it's just time to get down to business now.
And for you personally, what will it be like to be on strike, to have $500 a week in strike pay, and will you be out here every day? What's your plan for the future?
Yeah, I'll be out here every day. Not excited about the $500, but it takes some to get a lot. You know what I'm saying? So I got to do what I got to do to get what's owed me. That's all.
Gotcha. And I'll ask you, Chris, too, because so it's only the assembly and paint that is on strike, right? So you're part of the factor here. You're not on strike, right?
Yep, stamping and ISA and bodies not on strike right now. Yeah. We don't know if we're going to go. They're going to go on strike. It's possible they will. We don't know yet.
In the meantime, what's your role? You're out here today with everybody. What are you going to be doing?
This is supporting everybody. You know, I'm not on strike yet, but I got to support my team, my family out here.
And I assume you're in the local 900. You know probably a lot of people that are on strike. Have you been talking to them and hearing from them? And what has that been like?
We've just been trying to stick together and just one day at a time and see what they come up with negotiations.
So last question I'll ask both of you. I guess you could say the big three, but I'll target it specifically at Ford since you both work at Ford. What message do you want to send to Jim Farley and to the Ford, leadership?
We just want a fair contract. It hasn't been fair.
He couldn't do what we do on the line. So we make this company billions of dollars on our backs. You know what I'm saying? My parents retired from here. You know, give us what we deserve. That's all we're asking for. Nothing more, nothing less. Just give us what we deserve.
We want our pensions back. A lot of the new people don't have no pension.
Take care of the retirees. Take care of the retirees.
Well, thank you guys for talking to us. I appreciate it. Again, as you can see, a hub of activity here. It's really been building in the last hour. We've seen Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. We've seen Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib here as well, supporting these UAW members. And again, the strike had just begun at midnight here at the Michigan Assembly Plant in Wayne. But for now, live in Wayne, I'm Brett Cast, 7 Action News.
Brett, this is Carolyn. I know it's loud out there, but I want you to ask one of them, did they get official word from their union president, Fain? Is he the one who said, hey, walk out, or they just walked out because of the time? Hopefully you could hear my question.
Well, let me ask you, so I don't know if Jeremiah is still here. Were you at work today, or were you working at the plant and walked out?
At work, yes.
So how did you get word of the strike? Were you watching the Facebook Live?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I love about our new president. With him using Facebook Live, he knows that pretty much everybody has Facebook. So that was his way of keeping us informed of everything
Never say that social media has no value to workers.
that was going on. So once he said it, I just knew it was time to get to work.
So you didn't need direction from anybody. Everybody that was working knew that you were going to walk off at midnight.
Well, the company actually let us go home at 11, anticipating it as their way of, I guess, clearing everybody out peacefully. You know, it worked out well. Everybody walked out peacefully, and we just came straight to the picket line. We knew what time it was.
Gotcha. So knowing that was going to happen, once the company got the word, they stopped the assembly themselves, or at least production themselves, and sent you guys out.
Stopped production themselves, and we walked out at 11 o'clock.
Gotcha. It's probably not something you were expecting then to happen.
Not something I expected, not even something that I wanted, but it's something that I will do. You know, I don't want to strike, but I will.
We're going to support it
1,000%.
all the way.
Gotcha.
So we've still got like a sort of middle class consciousness here. Like that's something that we keep hearing. I don't want to strike, but I will. And proletarian revolutionary consciousness would be, I want to strike, fuck the bosses, etc. And I guarantee you have some of that sentiment on the picket line. But is it universal? No. That's why it's important for socialists of whatever stripe to actually organize and work with and alongside workers and push them left. You cannot push people left. You cannot change people's outlook on things without being part of them. So if you're just like a sect that shows up like the new communist groups used to do back in the 70s with pamphlets and flyers saying, get rid of your union boss, he's a sold out labor aristocrat, or whatever type of jargon you want to use, they're going to look at you crazy. They might even throw things at you or hit you upside the head with fucking picket signs. But like if you are one of them, if you are a member of the UAW, if you are active in union affairs, then you can actually say things like that. You can actually push the envelope and be taken seriously. Whereas if you're not, if you're an outsider that's just come to the picket line to start shit, like they used to beat the fuck out of leftists because they would show up out of nowhere and try to hand them pamphlets. And they didn't interrogate workers about like the actual conditions in their factory. It was just an extremely opportunistic method of engagement. So just and again, like that's part of the reason that I joined DSA, because DSA is doing this hard work, this necessary work on the ground to make actual inroads by leftists among working class people, among organized working class people. That's like one out of the 3 reasons why I joined. And we're doing well. I'm going to show you on Twitter later, like we're out there. We got boots on the ground.
Well, thank you guys again. So, Carolyn, I hope that answered your question then. Apparently they were, because we saw some people walking out at 11. I didn't realize they were actually walking off at that point. I didn't know they had actually shut it down at that point. I thought we would wait till midnight and that would happen. So, apparently that's how they found out inside, listening to the words of Shawn Fain, and left at 11.
Certainly that clarified everything for us, Brett, here. I guess when we saw them walking out.
That's at Michigan Assembly.
Okay, well, our team coverage continues with Simon Shake.
This is Toledo.
Kat, let's go to him now at the Stellantis Toledo assembly plant.
Simon?
Carolyn, Mike, a mass exodus is what we're seeing at this Toledo assembly plant. Just take a look behind us. Just a slew of people leaving the factory promptly at midnight. Many of these workers, just a few minutes ago, they were walking out of those doors. Now they are in their cars and they are taking off. Also, we just saw someone else pull up here in a pickup truck, dropping off dozens and dozens of those UAW strike signs. You can see they've got a little bit of a fire going out here, and just people are continuing a steady wave exiting this plant right after midnight. Pretty incredible. Now, let me just tell you, this Toledo Assembly Complex, this is where they build the Wrangler and the Gladiator, 2 of their most coveted vehicles here under the umbrella of Stellantis, under that Jeep brand. This factory itself dates back to the 1940s, and it has been just a key location as part of this strategic strike. So many of us listened to that address by the union president talking about how this is a defining moment for a generation of workers. Certainly these workers here taking part in that strategy, in that strategic plan, as we're watching them just continue to exit out in just a massive wave of traffic as this plant is entirely emptying out, and we do expect to see more gathering here outside to begin a strike process. We also ran into some workers from nearby Perrysburg, Ohio, who also came here. They don't work at this facility, but they work nearby, and they wanted to show their support for their fellow union brothers and sisters. And as I'm stepping back into the frame here, it's a little bit loud. People are honking, and they're taking off rather quickly from this facility as they initiate the strike process from here in Toledo, Ohio. We'll send it back to you.
And Simon, you haven't been able to talk to anybody there, right? Because they're just now leaving the plant, so no one's been out of their cars.
As of yet, we are still waiting for people to actually begin the strike process, picketing out here. Right now, you're just seeing this large exit from this facility. All of these folks were inside working just a short while ago. They've made the decision to take part in this strike, show of solidarity, and they are leaving the factory at this point. We do expect to see some folks either returning or another wave of workers coming here, carrying those signs and participating in the strike. But as you can see behind us, just a continuous group of workers choosing to leave and walk off at this point.
And Simon, obviously they all got that message one way or another, the same way that Britt was saying that workers kind of seem to absorb it. The administration there also understands what's going on. Now, those workers there in Ohio are in solidarity with the workers in Michigan and then also the workers in Missouri. So it is obviously affecting a lot of people in a lot of places, all coming together tonight, regardless of if the fact this is a smaller strike or a full strike. This is not a full strike at this point in time, but they're getting the message.
Who is the bourgeois news is going to throw salt in the game? It's not a full strike. Well, it will be. So this is off the AP wire. My local news station doesn't have anything like any live video from Wentzville or anything. Like there's no video, but like this was posted 6 minutes ago. Members of the UAW union began picketing at a General Motors assembly plant in Wentzville, Missouri, Ford factory in Wayne, Michigan near Detroit, and a Stellantis Jeep plant in Toledo, Ohio. It was the first time in the union's 88-year history that it walked out on all three companies simultaneously, as 4-year contracts with the companies expired at 11:59 p.m. on Thursday. Basically, just a few minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, not even. If these strikes last a long time, dealers could run short of vehicles and prices could rise. The walkout could even be a factor in next year's presidential election by testing Joe Biden's proud claim to be the most union-friendly president in American history. So this fucking strike-breaking motherfucker is claiming to be the most union-friendly president in American history. So, what bourgeois news always does, that's hilarious, like they always pick the most precarious types of workers. For example, Adelisa LeBron, 37. She's a single mom of 3 teens. It's important. With what I'm making, I have to work a part-time job to make ends meet, and she says that the strike has her nervous. The limited strikes will help to preserve the union's $825 million strike fund, which would run dry in all about 11 weeks if all 146,000 workers walked out. But Fain said more plants could be added if the companies don't make better offers. Oh yeah, that's just the bourgeois news's analysis. Let's see what CNBC has to say. They can always be relied upon to promote the interests of the ruling class. They're literally a channel for finance bros. No, thank you. I'm not going to support your so-called journalism. Oh, they've got the president of GM here.
Meantime, the UAW strike looming this evening, the contract talks nearing that deadline. Phil LeBeau is here now with the GM North America president. Phil, take it away.
Thank you, Scott. Mark Royce, president of General Motors. You just made a 4th offer earlier today to the UAW. Let's talk about this a little bit, because a lot of people are saying, what does GM
look at those bags
bring to the table?
Like this being an exploiter, just negatively impact your physical appearance and health. Like, I mean, I guess that's why the Botox and hair plugs and all these other things to make colonizers look less old are so popular. They're just ripping off these people. I imagine being such an exploitative prick takes a substantial toll on your appearance. I mean, that is if you have a conscience. Most of these people have none, as Kwame Ture would say.
20% raise over the life of this contract, 4.5 years, correct?
That's correct. Yep, and that you know, if you look at that and some of the spikes that happen from an inflation standpoint, you know, we're getting a lot of people into a great place here for us, employee-wise.
So you've got that. Plus, for the first time, and I want you to talk about this, you are basically saying the facilities, the plants that we have, we're going to be, that's through the life of this contract. We're not planning to close any of these plants.
No, that's job security, and that's very important to not only our team members and every employee in General Motors, but also the communities that these plants and our...
These people don't care about the communities. Like, it's like fucking clockwork. It's like these people have a company that doesn't do anything but make scripts for them when they do horrible interviews like this. They always talk about the communities, or they concern troll the workers. If you actually did good by your workers wouldn't be on fucking strike.
Suppliers are in, and you know, that's a big deal, because if you look, I've been around a while in GM, and having our plants and our communities fully facilitized with the promise of 2 more EV investments and a 3rd propulsion EV investment in one of our traditional ICE plants. You know, we're doing that. We have vertically integrated all of that. A lot of our competition hasn't, but we chose to do that, use our full footprint, and really capacitize. So it's a big deal for us.
Yeah, but you've heard what Shawn Fain, president of the UAW, said. It's not enough. Are they negotiating in good faith? Are you frustrated?
You know, these are never easy negotiations, but I gotta tell you, we are 120% at the table, bargaining and negotiating the offer that we gave today. The subcommittees are all doing that right now, and so this is a true give and take right now, so it's happening. One thing I will say...
Why does every old white dude have those crooked-ass bottom teeth?
Say, though...
Usually, oftentimes, they're tobacco stained. Like, look at Rudy Giuliani's teeth. Like, every old white dude above the age of 50 or so has those same crooked-ass bottom teeth.
You know, July 18th, the day that we got, you know, the first list of...
He looks like a fucking anglerfish. That's what he looks. He looks like a fucking anglerfish. Those fish that sit in the fucking, at the bottom of the ocean with that little light, with those extremely sharp and jagged teeth in their mouths, and they just sit at the bottom of the ocean and have this little light out to lure other stupid little sea creatures so that they can eat them up. That's what this guy looks like.
The demands and the requests by the UAW leadership and the president, that was when we started. And so there were 1,000 things that we've been working through until we get to, you know, the last pieces and the time deadline that we have tonight. So we've been doing that all the way through in a very, very, very conscientious and hard effort and result work.
If the UAW goes on strike at midnight, and we've been told it's going to be at least 3 of your transmission and engine plants, how quickly will that shut down final production?
Well, you know, it doesn't take long. More importantly, it hurts everybody.
No, it doesn't. It hurts your bottom line and it hurts your bonus. Stop saying that you are the representative of people other than your class. You do not speak for the workers. You do not speak for the community. You don't even live in the community. You probably live in fucking Grosse Pointe or some extremely rich and Tony suburb of Detroit. Like, you do not speak for the working class. Stop acting like you do. Your only experience with the community is through your driving through on your way to your fancy ass office. Like, what community? When was the last time you went to the grocery store? When was the last time you went to a neighborhood bar? When was the last time you walked through a park in a working class district of Detroit? Never, ever, ever. Never. You're insulated. That's what all of your class is. You're insulated. You're insulated from the consequences of your horrible decisions. You're insulated from the environmental pollution that your factories cause. You're insulated from every fucking thing. Yet you go on CNBC and you speak for the community. You're not a responsible civic leader. You're a parasite.
It hurts our employees. It hurts the communities where these plants are. Our supply bases, our tier 1s, our tier 2s, our tier 3s. And
then they always throw out this fucking technical language. Like, that's what they do. That is the number one sign of a mountebank, the number one sign of a charlatan. You throw out all of this technical language, tier 1, tier 2, EV. Hey, come on. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
for every one of those people that are out of work at one of these facilities that we have, there's 6 other people in the community that are affected. So the buying power in our plants, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in some cases, the buying power in those communities is really large. The economy, the communities, it's all affected. That would be a very sad outcome.
When you've gone into some of these negotiations in these sessions, has Shawn Fain been in there, and what's your take on how he's conducting himself?
He has been in there, Phil, and this has all been in good faith. It has been happening, but as I said, I set the record straight on when we started, and that was July 18th.
But are you frustrated?
I don't know if frustrated is the right word. We are intensely focused on getting the agreement.
And one last question. The ripple effect of this. If this is an extended strike over several weeks, how damaging is it?
It's really, if you think about, again, the communities, the employees, the livelihoods of the families of all of our employees is devastating. So this is...
Oh, shut the fuck up. Well, that's the bourgeois position. I mean, pretty typical shit. I don't know why I would expect anything different.
One of the biggest strikes in recent history could happen tonight.
Oh, this is in my metropolitan area, Wentzville. It's a pretty far distant suburb all the way out in St. Charles County. But they've got a major GM assembly plant out there. So.
United Auto Workers are going head-to-head with 3 big auto manufacturers, including General Motors. A contract deal expires in just a few hours. Thank you for watching. I'm Ann Allred. Mike Bush has the night off. Locally, thousands are employed at the GM plant in Wentzville. Our Justina Coronel takes us to St. Charles County to show us the impact of a potential picket.
What do we want?
Chanting for...
Bruh, look at that dude's dreads. Look at that. Fucking majestic.
Chanting for change.
When do we want it?
Local UAW 2250 could be walking for better wages. This is the group rallying over the weekend.
What I'm hearing from last night, they still got a ways to go, but there's some movement.
That dude definitely has a Harley in his garage. He has to. I mean, he just has that look, that fucking handlebar mustache, the swept back hair. Like, that dude rides a Hulk.
But there's some movement.
A spokesperson with General Motors said that they did put in another offer Thursday morning to avoid a disruption Thursday night. But will it be enough? If not, more than 4,000 workers from Wentzville's General Motors plant could strike. If so, third shift would be shutting equipment down, while others set up pickets at plant gates and assembling kitchen duty to help process food for members' families.
Looks like it'll start with maybe the third shift that would stop. But that will significantly reduce the overall capacity for General Motors to produce the various vehicles.
Oh, hats off to the UAW. I mean, I'm not wearing a hat right now, but if I had a hat, I'd take it off to the UAW because, like, they planned this shit strategically. Why does everybody walk out on strike? Because they don't want to kill their strike fund in 11 weeks. Right? You don't understand how fast almost $1 billion will go when you have thousands of people on strike that all need that support. So, very well and strategically planned actions.
George Sedition, University of Missouri St. Louis, is a professor of supply chain management. He studies the ripple effects impacts like these have.
I think about it will affect some of the smaller businesses who need to have those types of vehicles.
Fuck small businesses.
Be able to operate their businesses.
Wentzville mayor also expects to feel the pinch.
This is our #1 employer. They employ 4,100 people, if not more. And there are sub-suppliers that it will affect. So it's a kind of a domino effect, if you will.
But he's ready to support.
They are my constituents and also my friends. They work, live, they play, they spend dollars in Wentzville, so it's very important. GM is very important to our community as well.
The mayor and the professor hope the dilemma can be fixed with a deal.
The most valuable resource that they have are the employees, or the people, and that you always have to take care of the people. So all of the parties, I think, are challenged at this time, and we can only hope that we resolve this issue, and the sooner the better.
Justina Cornell, 5 on your side.
If there isn't a deal, the contract ends at 10:59 tonight, and the strike begins at 11. In 2019, the
so they were using Eastern Standard Time. I thought all that shit was Central Standard Time because Detroit.
Missouri economy lost about $42 million a week from the GM strike alone.
Coming down to the wire, I want you to take a look at the clock on your screen. Just 12 hours and change remaining. Time is running out for the big three to
They actually counted down to this shit like it was fucking New Year's.
A new contract agreement with United Auto Workers. If a deal is not reached, union members could hit the picket lines, walking away from a steady income, which impacts their families.
Walking away from a steady income.
And sends a ripple effect from the production line to small.
If you're a proletarian, there's no such thing as a steady income.
Small businesses to the people trying to buy a car. And so we're starting this day by putting everything.
Think about the people who have money for a new car.
Into perspective because this has such a huge impact.
Why is this black dude dressed for fucking St. Patrick's Day?
On our area and the rest of the country. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, I'm a representative of the African Order of Hibernians. Yes, we exist.
On this Thursday, I'm Brandon Hudson.
And I'm Amy Andrews. This morning we're learning numerous counteroffers from Stellantis, General Motors, and Ford have been rejected by the UAW in recent weeks.
Yeah, union leaders say that a strike is not the goal, but they will have to do what they have to do to get a fair deal and show their worth. Fox News' Robert Murdoch is keeping an eye on this situation. He joins us live from downtown Detroit. What is the feeling down there? Because on the one hand, you have this auto show, but on the other hand, you have people that are waiting to see if a strike is going to happen.
You know, I think there's a lot of just anticipation, everybody wondering what this next move will be in this situation. As you know, they have been in contract negotiations since mid-July, and we are now just hours away from the deadline, from those contracts actually expiring. Now, as you guys know, Sean Fain, the president of the UAW, he's been really good all along about giving updates on social media to let everybody know, to let the membership know exactly how these contracts are going. Well, they say that they are ready to react. They are ready to take action.
All right, enough of that fucking talking head. So we're actually getting some vids out of the plant that's actually closest to me. This is Wentzville out by St. Charles. The third world is being like, oh, look at those workers driving all those fancy cars, but these are supposed to be proletarian. Shut the fuck up. Just because they live in the first world and aren't living in abject penury, like you do not have to live in a shack, or you do not have to have a fucking donkey as your primary means of transportation to be working class.
Only the ones going the wrong way. They're supposed to go to the union. Yeah.
Look at that hog. All right, so this is Keith. He's the first ever labor climate organizer. Labor Notes, big fan of their work. At midnight, the clock ran out and automac workers massed on picket lines. Strike involves 13,000 people. Yeah, I dig Labor Notes. Some members who've been expecting an all-out strike right away were disappointed. On Thursday, some at Toledo Assembly wore black in mourning. But as the deadline approached, the regional director Dave Green was seen in town, and people's spirits were buoyed as it became apparent that their plant would be one of the strike sites. So again, like this says a lot. Like people are actually anxious and ready to strike. It also shows that there's always going to be line struggle within the ranks of the proletariat when actions like this are on the table. We're all waiting on pins and needles. Normally I'd be going to bed right now, but I'm staying up late. So this is what happens when you have workers that are actually like, these people are paying attention. Like they actually, okay, there's like a myth that's existed on both the left and the right that working class people are like empty vessels. They need their heads filled with either reactionary or revolutionary ideas. It's like, no, that's not the case, because people know what's in their interests. They are willing to take actions that are in their interests. They are not willing to take actions that are against their interests or actions that that aren't well thought out. So people were ready to strike because they knew that they were getting fucked over. You have these profits that are constantly increasing. You have all sorts of bullshit that's going down on the factory floor, and people are tired. Like, that's why everybody was ready to strike. You have this guy, Shizyniak. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with Polish names. He's 21 years old. You got this 21-year-old dude working at Michigan Assembly, and he's been working at the plant since he got out of high school. He makes $19.10 an hour. He'd like to have a family, but since it takes 8 years to get the top pay, he'd be almost 30. He believes a strike is needed. People are angry, he said. It's like a revolving door. It's not a career anymore. It's a job. Keep in mind that many of these people, white, black, and Latino, have family members. They have uncles. They have dads who retired from Ford, who worked there for 40 and 50 years. Like, people are nostalgic for that. People want jobs for life, guaranteed jobs for life, and they want a strong union. That's what they're striking for. You saw those signs that said, "Bring back the American dream." Like, that's how a lot of these workers see themselves. They're fighting for an American dream that no longer exists for a variety of reasons. Number one being neoliberalism. But, like, that's why, like, I used to be, okay, in like my early 20s when I was like 21, 22, I used to be one of those death to America types. Fuck the American dream. Angry, angry, angry. But, like, as you talk to more working class people, you start to realize that it isn't like an imperialist thing. It isn't like we want to fuck over the world. It's that we want to enjoy the fruits of what we help produce. And if you talk to them long enough, and if you explain it to them instead of lambasting and yelling at them, you'll get them to realize, if you organize alongside them, that, yeah, we're fucking other people over just by living here. We drive shiny cars. Our counterparts in Mexico make $5 an hour and have to ride rickety-ass buses. International solidarity is built through class struggle, and it's built through patient political education. It's not built through trying to pound ideas into people's heads. So the union is demanding a 40% wage boost and an end to wage tiers. Production workers hired since 2007 are on a permanent lower track where they forgo pensions and retiree health benefits. There are also multiple lower wage tiers, such as the workers in parts distribution centers and many of those making components for electric vehicles. Workers are also demanding a shorter work week, the restoration of cost of living raises pegged to inflation, and a conversion of an even lower tier of so-called temp workers who can remain in that category for years. So you could be a temp for like fucking 8 years into permanent employees after 90 days. And as the auto industry undergoes seismic shifts in the transition from gas power to electric vehicles, workers are demanding job security, the right to strike over plant closures, and a working family protection program where laid off workers can get paid to do community service. So these are all progressive demands. That's what the people are going out on strike for. And I really like Fain because he's using struggle language. Like, he's not just like, oh, we want to work this out. No, listen to this guy. He told more than 30,000 people on Facebook Live, it's a battle of the working class against the rich, the haves versus the have-nots, the billionaire class against everybody else. Of course, you cannot expect a UAW president to use words like bourgeoisie. But maybe through continual leftist involvement in the union, maybe one day we can get Mr. Fain to say bourgeoisie, and workers actually know what the fuck that means. There's more news from Wentzville. Very spirited, late at night, very committed. It's definitely going to pick up in the morning. You've got bonfires. You can hear the cheering coming from inside the plant gates at Toledo Assembly. Bonfires are an essential part of any picket. Bonfires are an essential part of any picket line worth its salt.
Get right. This is what democracy looks like.
I despise that chant.
This is what democracy looks like. What do we want? Right.
75% of United Auto, 75% of people polled by CNN sympathize with United Auto Workers. Only 19% sympathize with U.S. auto companies. 2% say that both of them can get fucked. So the American public is slowly becoming based. Oop. Accidentally clicked on Rashida Tlaib's page. She is also a fellow DSA member. Detroit is a union town.
Cohen in Wayne, Michigan right now. You're hearing from Sean Fain, the UAW president.
And they want to call us greedy. They got the whole thing backwards.
What would you say to the CEOs of these auto companies that say the union has not been acting in good faith, that there were delays? What do you make of that?
Let's talk about what good faith is. They've had our economic demands for 6 weeks. We've told them from day one, we expect a bargain now, not wait till the end. They waited till last week. We had to file unfair labor practice charges on 2 companies to get them to come to the table. So they waited till the last week to want to get down to business. Shame on them, and what they're saying is complete BS.
You heard the CEO of Ford say that it would bankrupt
My God, he almost said a swear.
them if they met your demands. What'd you think of that?
I think it's a joke. You know what? They could double our pay right now. Labor, the cost of labor that goes into a vehicle is 5% of the vehicle. They could double our wages, and they could not raise the price of vehicles, and they would still make billions of dollars. It's a lie like everything else that comes out of their mouth.
I like this dude. He gets right to the heart of the contradiction. Like he said, he's basically saying that he could double our pay. These people make so much money that they can double our pay and not hurt the consumer by raising prices. Like he gets right to the heart of this. This is not a guy for fucking mealy-mouthed class piece bullshit. Like this is what a proletarian class fighter looks like. Is he a revolutionary? No. Is he going to topple the United States government or encourage his union members to topple the United States government? No. Because if he did say shit like that, he would appear as a loon and people would probably get rid of him. So he's using his position to push the language of class struggle forward.
The strategy is 3 facilities.
I guarantee you, this guy is, just from the rhetoric he's using, I guarantee you, this guy is a lot further left than he lets on.
What impact do you think that could make on the auto industry as a whole across this country?
We'll find out. And you know what? And it's going to keep on building if they don't come to the table for our members.
More facilities are more facilities going to feel this? Are more facilities going on strike?
If they don't take care of our members, they will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So he's saying, like, my duty is not to the fucking auto companies. My duty is to the workers who I'm elected to represent. Detroit DSA, a lot of signs that oppose the tiered wage system, which again is like, it's fucked up. It divides workers against each other. Campesinos en solidaridad con UAW. That's the Huelga Eagle. I saw some people were stupidly saying that they thought it was a Nazi symbol. It's like, it's not a Nazi symbol. This sign goes all the way back to the Aztecs, okay? A Chicano organized union like the UFW is going to use Mexican iconography. Like, there's nothing fashy about that. Was Cesar Chavez ideologically kind of fucky? Yeah. But people just call everything fascist these days. Words mean things. All right, so this is the official.
People want to know. People want to know. Who
Yeah, this Sean Fain guy, like, he's really, really impressed me. First picket line at Ford since 1973. But yeah, he's really impressive. If this guy like ran for something, he would definitely win in a union state like Michigan. Good evening. I love those fucking windbreakers. I'd get one, but then I'd feel like a poser. Jesus, I got a shitload of tabs open. Oh well. So I went to my first DSA event yesterday. It's actually pretty dope. It wasn't like an official party meeting or anything like that because DSA isn't a party. But it was cool. It was basically a hangout at a local microbrewery, I think the correct technical term is. But it was cool. I got to meet a lot of people in the... I was looking at that. That seems to be old. Anyways, yeah, I got to meet a lot of people in the local branch, meet some people that I've only engaged and interacted with on Twitter, and yeah, touch grass and have a beer every now and then. Or more than every now and then. Hope you loosen up. Too many leftists have a giant stick up their ass. And it is not helping our public image at all. But yeah, it was dope. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Got to meet some cool people who I'm looking forward to working with, and talked about some plans to actually like improve shit for the people at St. Louis Underground. So it was fun. Definitely be more news on this in the morning, but right now, energy's building. Energy's building. People are pissed off, and they are reveling in the historic significance of this day. And you've got a shitload of organizations that are setting up. Like, look, this is fucking Greenpeace. Probably one of the most famous and oldest environmental rights organizations in the world. And they're in solidarity with the strike.
Coalition. Right now, 150,000 UAW members are in fierce negotiations with the big three automakers, and we want to ensure a just transition so that when we do climate policies like the switch to electric vehicles, we make sure that we ensure good union jobs for the folks involved with our important industries.
I'm Ben from Greenpeace. We've had a delegation of workers from UAW locals here in California on board our ship Arctic Sunrise. We also had banners on board to demonstrate the climate movement is in solidarity with the 150,000 auto workers who are nearing their contract expiration. We wanted a clear, loud message to the big three that the climate movement is united with those workers and with the United Auto Workers Union, that they're demanding a fair contract and a just transition in that fair contract as we move from fossil fuels to electric vehicles. So it's time for us to stand together. We are doing that. 100 organizations from across the climate and social justice movement have signed an open letter to the big three, and we'll be standing in solidarity coast to coast here together with our union siblings.
So you've got the fucking climate movement, which is like probably the most important left-wing movement in the world. Because like the climate can literally kill all of us. I keep seeing leftists say like, oh, well, it won't kill all of us. Oh, okay, so it'll just kill all of us that live in a third world. This is an existential threat. So the climate movement is extremely important. So you've got this extremely important movement throwing its weight behind organized labor. When shit like that happens, the ruling class, the bourgeoisie, the billionaire class, whatever the fuck you want to call them, the people that are fucking us all over, that are destroying our planet, that are killing that's killing our kids, that's basically ruining and making life unsustainable on this planet. Like, those people tremble in fear because you have two potentially explosive movements that are like this now. Like, do you think that union workers and climate activists in the 60s and 70s would have gotten together? Of course not. That's why you had the fucking hard hat riots. This dude scares the shit out of me. Like, this dude is definitely selling pain pills on the floor of Congress. Please don't come beat me up for saying that. But, like, this dude, he just scares the shit out of me. He also pulled a shotgun out on a black jogger when he was a state rep or something like that. But, yeah, he almost had an Ahmaud Arbery incident. But, yeah, like, this dude looks like the fucking... He needs to be giving people fucking tombstone pile drivers or something. Last year, the CEOs of the big three made a combined $74 million. Yet those same CEOs are now claiming that they cannot afford to pay the UAW workers who bust their asses every day. That's cool, Fets. Let's see you apologize to the person you pulled a shotgun out on. You malignant-looking motherfucker. Anybody want me to disable my ad blocker? He had his grandma's Bible. So this dude has definitely been inspired by, like, black people. Like, he's quoting fucking scripture. People have been making a big deal out of that. Like, when people start quoting scripture, you're about to have some shit going on. This dude is obviously heavily inspired by the civil rights movement. He also quoted Malcolm X.
As Malcolm X once stated, if a person tells you they want freedom, but in the next breath will tell you what they won't do to get it, that person doesn't believe in freedom. We have to be willing to stand up and get our demands by any means necessary. So how far are you willing to go? For instance, are you willing to stand and...
Wonder if those demands include, if the willingness to go to distance includes flattening Scab's tires and taking bosses hostage like they used to do in France.
With people you don't know across the entire country. Are you willing to stand up for what you deserve?
He quoted Malcolm X to a crowd of white people. That's too fucking good.
For what your family deserves, for what Kokomo deserves, for what the entire working class deserves.
I wouldn't be surprised to find out this dude was in a fucking left-wing group or something like that. Like, he's extremely sharp politically. Like, he makes Walter Reuther look like Mussolini. Well, a lot of things make Walter Reuther look like Mussolini, but
time for the
God damn, man.
UAW to stand up.
This dude could have been in the White Panther Party for all I know. Yeah, this is something cool DSA did. Some of our international committee people actually applied to join the international committee. Yes, I like what they're doing. But they went to Okinawa. You don't know anything about, like, why is there such a strong and militant anti-war movement in Okinawa? Because it's been occupied by the U.S. military since World War II. And U.S. troops down there, particularly the Marines, are notorious for abusing and raping local women and doing all sorts of horrible things. It's basically seen, it's like, by the U.S. military, like, they basically treat Okinawa as one open-air brothel. And it's disgusting. Like, that's how first world people tend to treat colonized people. Because if you know anything about Okinawa, Okinawans were also colonized by the Japanese, along with the Ryukyu Islands. So they're doubly colonized, and they're suffering at the hands of American imperialism. But they went over there, and they linked up with Zinco and some activists in Okinawa to oppose the construction of a new U.S. military base on the islands. So that's good. You got Seth Dalton and Seishi Hinata that sat down and chopped it up. The third gym of Pokemon is actually about the Okinawa land reclamation strategy controversy. I know about as much about Pokemon as you do about the Song of Ice and Fire series. I don't fucking know. Okinawa is known internationally for its anti-base militancy, driven by the burden the U.S. military has exerted on the island since the decades after World War II. Over 70% of U.S. military presence in Japan is concentrated in Okinawa, which makes up less than 1% of the land in Japan. Over 15%. 15%. Imagine the U.S. military coming to your town and taking 15% of your land for military bases. And the deep encroachment this poses on locals was striking as we drove by mile after mile of military bases through cities and countryside. So, DSA is doing really good work. And I love how they have the signs in English so that the Americans who don't bother to to study Japanese, yet they're over there abusing the locals and polluting their land horribly. Like the U.S. military is the #1 polluter on the face of the earth. But, yeah, really good work. Internationally recognized organization. They have a video. We should have a video. And it was written by Gerard Dalbolt. See if they have a video on YouTube. Might go through some of these. But yeah, anyways, I applied to join because I like the work that they do. Specifically the African subcommittee, because Africa is strongly and shamefully neglected by the left. They actually talked about this a little bit with some comrades at the meetup yesterday. But I was also drunk off one IPA. Speaking of drunk, did you know that substance abuse among police and law enforcement is actually a problem? This has been a rabbit hole that I've been down for like almost a week. I've just been looking into police officers steal prescription drugs from people. Police officers steal street drugs from people. And I was like, what the fuck? Because when you just look at how they interact with the public, how they behave, these people have to be on fucking something. So, there's this whole interview. You have a fucking FBI agent. This was published more than 8 years ago, but regardless, 2015 is basically yesterday. You have an FBI agent who arrested drug addicts, and he eventually became a drug addict. He got addicted to drugs, pain medication, because he had chronic and painful inflammation of the intestines. Basically saying that, he's full of shit. So this full of shit ass dude gets addicted to pain pills. And eventually he learns from an informant that heroin is apparently just like taking a pain pill. So this guy takes the advice of this informant, who probably told him this shit just to poison his stupid ass, say he pulled one over on the feds. But he eventually started stealing heroin from the FBI evidence locker. And they describe how he does it here. Lowry carefully broke the red evidence seal and used his finger to remove roughly 1/4 gram of brownish, powdery heroin. And he made a line 3 inches long on the hardcover of an FBI notebook. He rolled a piece of paper into a straw. He put it to his nose, and he snorted. Within 15 minutes, I was fine, Lowry said. It gave me energy. It made me feel euphoric, like I had confidence. You feel like you could take on anything. So the high from being a basically unprosecutable asshole with a gun and a badge. You work for a federal secret police agency. That's not enough high for you. You have to add drugs to the mix. You have to become addicted to heroin. Lowry took heroin nearly every day for the next year, usually while in his car, usually once after work. The soothing high he felt that first day had quickly vanished, as it always does. But the need for heroin never lessened. He was taking it, Lowry told himself, to feel normal again. He was doing this when the top prosecutor of Washington, D.C. hailed his work helping to dismantle a coast-to-coast drug organization importing pounds of cocaine and heroin into the city. So you're breaking up drug operations, yet you're simultaneously addicted to them and fucking with them. And you got caught when you were found incoherent, probably passed out soon after this, on September 29th of 2015 on an empty construction lot at the Navy Yard. Your misconduct forced prosecutors to dismiss cases against 28 drug defendants, putting each one back on the streets. He pled guilty to 64 criminal charges, including obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, and possession of drugs. And blah, blah, blah. Some bullshit about how long he wanted to be a cop. He was lauded at an annual awards ceremony in September 2014 for narcotics cases and for the time he chased down a carjacking suspect. This guy has Superman syndrome. Was he high when he chased down this carjacking suspect? He had to be, after overhearing a DC police radio transmission. He won 4 awards. There's his car. I'm fucking shocked. Well, not really. Because I come from like a semi-criminal lumpen proletarian family. And like I grew up hearing bullshit stories about like bullshit that cops do. So this article is from American Addiction Centers, which probably has the whole fucking carceral bullshit rehab approach. But they actually run interference for the cops. 30% of those in first responder professions may be struggling with substance abuse. 30%. Studies show a correlation between high-stress careers and substance abuse. So, okay, you're in a high-stress career. Cops stress people out. Cops, what stress do pigs have? You stress people out. Y'all don't go through any real fucking stress. Those workers on that assembly line, those UAW workers, they go through stress. You just saw one lady talking about how she has to work a fucking part-time job after a day on the assembly line. And these cops, like, that's the thing. All of these fucking rehab places and fucking bourgeois news media, all these places, like, the police are just an organized gang. That's all they are. And yet we're expected to coddle and hug these people. Okay, it's okay you shot my dog. Come here, pig, give me a hug. It's all right. Yeah, you can have more of my tax dollars to shoot innocent black people with. It's all good. Like, no profession in the United States is as coddled as the police. Can you even call this a profession? Like, would you call the fucking mob a profession? Would you call being a drug trafficker a fucking profession? No, that's a hustle. And like, this guy literally murdered somebody in my city. Jason Flannery. He murdered Vondren Myers. He chased this guy from the corner of Shaw and Clem, and he chased him up somebody's stairs. This was in 2014, not even 2 months after Mike Brown was killed. Chased this dude, Vondren Myers. Thought he had a gun. Well, thought, if pigs are capable of thought that Myers had a gun. Chased him up somebody else's stairs and murdered him in a gangway. If you know anything about St. Louis, okay, St. Louis, brick house here, right? Really close to your next house. Narrow gangway, which empties into a backyard, which empties into an alley. Usually the route of egress, how you get out of there, is secured by a chain link fence you can easily hop. But Flannery was moonlighting as a store security guard. So he chased this dude off premises onto somebody's private property and blew this kid's head off in the fucking gangway. Okay, a couple years later, he crashes his patrol car. High as fuck off coke. So that raises the question in my little pea brain. Was he high off coke when he shot Vondret? Most likely. Because only a motherfucker that's high or has a Superman complex or both. You already just saw the pig talking about how that heroin and how this cocaine and how these other drugs make you feel like you're fucking Superman, that you could take on the whole world. Yeah, that coke probably got it. That coke in your system probably had you thinking, yeah, I could fuck this fucker up. I'm going to chase him. Let's get him. Let's kill him. Let's go. He's evil. He's got a gun. You have to be high to mistake a sandwich for a fucking gun. I'm sorry. You have to be. So, more pigs behaving badly. NYPD officer caught planting marijuana in a car. So they don't just use drugs, they also sell and plant them on people.
It's a little bit of weed.
You can literally see it coming out of his hand. Let's go back. What the fuck? You have to, come on.
It's a little bit of weed.
Body camera footage obtained by The Intercept shows a Staten Island police officer apparently planting marijuana in a car during a traffic stop. The incident comes just a few weeks after a similar one, originally reported by the New York Times, in which the same cop was again caught by his body camera in the apparent act of planting marijuana in a car.
Yo, he put something in my car, yo!
Alright, this was in the back seat on the floor. It's a marijuana cigarette. It's lit.
In the more
It's lit because you were probably smoking it not even 5 minutes before.
recent incident, two officers pulled over passenger Jason Serrano and a friend for a broken taillight. As the officers approached the car and the driver rolled down the window, the officers claimed the car smelled like weed and ordered both people out of the car.
The car smells like marijuana, so we're going to check it, all right? Okay, and then what? Fix it. There's nothing in the car, you'll be good to go, all right?
Serrano was recovering from abdominal surgery after being stabbed. He lifts his shirt to reveal his wound to one of the officers.
I don't want to see that right now, okay?
I can get out. I can barely move, bro.
Once out of the car, the officers demand to search Serrano's jacket, and he refuses.
Do me a favor, give me the jacket.
There's nothing in my jacket. I'm not getting searched for no reason.
As Serrano grows agitated, the officers become more aggressive.
Come on, relax. Yo.
Relax.
They grab him, push him to the ground, and handcuff him.
Take him down. Take him down. Relax.
Serrano remains on the ground, handcuffed and in visible pain for the rest of the traffic stop, until an ambulance arrives to take him to the hospital.
Can someone call an ambulance?
The two officers, Kyle Erickson and Elmer Pastran, begin searching the car and Serrano's jacket. Officer Erickson tells Pastran that they need to find evidence.
Searching the rest of the car.
Yeah, we gotta find something.
Officer Erickson begins searching the car. He searches the passenger side area first. When he finds nothing, he can be heard murmuring an expletive. Erickson returns to Pastran to ask.
Should I search the whole thing? Or what do you
Yeah,
think?
search the whole thing.
He returns to the passenger side and searches through Serrano's jacket, the cup holder, and the center console. As he continues searching the rest of the car, the driver approaches.
I can watch him search my car. Because, what is he doing?
Man, stand back.
Why? What are you doing?
Erickson looks back at Pastran, visibly agitated.
See nothing.
It's all right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After several minutes searching the car, Erickson again admits that he hasn't found anything.
Nothing?
I don't see anything.
15 seconds later, Erickson returns to the front seat cup holder and sets something down.
Keep in mind that this is the shit that just gets caught, okay? This is the stuff that they just get caught doing because they were stupid enough or high enough or stupid and high enough to leave their body cams on. So imagine those that have the sense, the good sense, the criminal sense to turn their body cams off. How many innocent people are sitting on Rikers Island because of incidents just like this? Because when you're a cop, what veteran cops do is they take you under their wing, and they teach you how to do crooked shit like this to make quotas, or to fuck with people that mouth off to you, or to fuck with people that, I don't know, fucked your girlfriend. Like, cops are petty fucking people. They use their badge and they use their gun to enforce their own personal vendettas, or their own racial vendettas, or whatever. They shake people down. They rob people. Like I said, the police are the biggest gang in the history of the world.
It's a little bit of weed.
Like, look at this shit.
It's a little bit of weed.
Erickson continues searching through the center console, where he's already looked. A minute or so later, he again sounds agitated.
Fuck!
Good?
Erickson shakes his head as he continues fiddling through Serrano's jacket, just out of the camera's view. A couple minutes later, the two officers say they found weed flakes in Serrano's jacket.
Flakes everywhere, though.
Yeah, no, he had weed. You could see his weed here.
At the end of the search, Erickson turns to Pastran.
You good? We're good?
The officers then fist bump each other. The few words exchanged between the two officers during the search are almost identical to those they exchanged during the search just a few weeks earlier.
Yeah.
So they've got a special code that they use when they're planting shit on people. They're going through this guy's jacket. They planted weed flakes in his jacket, and they planted weed in the cup console, the center console of the car. And they've got a special code that they've developed amongst these guys. Like, how many people have they done this to?
You know what I mean?
On that occasion, too, the search had ended with Erickson asking Pastran.
Good? Yeah.
Okay.
An ambulance finally arrives to pick up Serrano. He spends the next 5 days handcuffed in a hospital room, waiting for his abdominal wound to close. Serrano took a plea deal to avoid jail time and didn't learn of this body cam's footage existence until after he pleaded guilty. The video, which didn't emerge for nearly 2 years, underscores the limited information available not just to the public but also defendants, and validates criticism by police accountability advocates that body cameras are of little use if the evidence they capture remains inaccessible. The NYPD declined to comment on this incident.
Of course they did. So I've got a book here. The CIA's Organized Crime by Douglas Valentine. He comes off as a bit of a tanky-ish type of conspiracy theorist to me, but kind of like John Potash, still has some stuff that's worth reading. I also have his book, The Strength of the Wolf, which talks more about like the Bureau of Narcotics and Drugs, but I'm reading this one first. So this is what he says about narcotics agents, or cops that deal with narcotics arrests, etc. Narcotics agents are agents provocateur. They create a crime by setting up a series of undercover buys, which they do largely through informants who get paid or otherwise compensated for buying or selling drugs to people that the agents bust. The best undercover agents would shoot heroin so that they could pose as addicts and traffickers. These guys would do anything, but they had to provide heroin to their informants. An agent was not looking to cure an addict. He was looking to use an addict as an informant and sustain his habit while working up the ladder to his or her supplier. So the agents became suppliers of heroin. The people who were supposed to be stopping drugs are selling it or supplying it to people with the bullshit hope of getting people further up the ladder. They became an instrumental part of the problem at the basic level. And that's still the case today, but on a grander scale. Agents are in the illicit narcotic business in both an official and unofficial capacity. Within the old Federal Bureau of Narcotics, a certain amount of illicit drug distribution was officially allowed. But behind the scenes, the case-making agents were competing with each other to make cases. In New York City, there were 5 groups of agents, maybe 10 agents in a group, and they were all trying to get promoted so they didn't have to be street agents forever. So they could become bosses. Ideally, an ambitious agent latched onto an informant who could make a big case on a member of the mafia. During that guaranteed a successful career, but the competition was fierce, and sometimes an ambitious agent in one group would intentionally arrest another agent's informant for dealing drugs. One case-making agent would subvert another case-making agent, and now you have life or death conflict between wolves. This is how informants ended up getting killed. The agents started bumping off each other's informants and then each other. They killed each other. This is what got Auntie Tartaglino so upset. Agents were giving each other hot shots. They'd slip heroin into someone's beer or tie him down and give him an injection of heroin and kill him. So there were instances of this happening. So that's the level of corruption that permeated drug law enforcement. Without centralized control, it was a Hobbesian war. To make big cases, case-making agents needed to acquire heroin unofficially. They knew where the big dealers kept their stash, so they would burglarize an apartment and steal the drugs. They would cut the dope and resell it through their informants, share the profits, and make more cases. If they didn't get caught, they got promoted and became the bosses themselves. Agents were raping women. A lot of addict informants were prostitutes, and the corrupt agents would force them to have sex to avoid going to jail. Agents were stealing money from floating craps games and gamblers. They were ripping off everybody left and right, and they were murdering people. That is your drug war. This was going on in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So these are the people who were gearing up to be empowered by Nixon and Ford and Carter and Reagan and unleashed on the black community. These are just the fucking low-level people. The Bureau of Narcotics, later to become the DEA, those were your fucking officials. This guy's a fucking sheriff. Let's see what he does.
Kalkaska County Sheriff's Deputy Ashley Van Sloten knocking on the car window of Midland County Sheriff Scott Stevenson late in the afternoon on November 16th.
Sir, you need to wake up and talk to me. What are you doing?
A passerby called police to say that a car was off the road with a man inside it on M66 near Lund Road south of Kalkaska. It took a little time, but Stevenson woke up and spoke with the deputy.
My dispatcher called. Someone thought you were dead over here.
Stevenson told the deputy he was on a deer hunting trip and had been driving from Gladwin County. He admitted he had been drinking earlier in the day. The video and audio recording indicates that once an EMS crew arrived, Stevenson became aware of the severity of the situation and told the deputy this.
Listen, I don't know who you are.
I'm Midland County Sheriff.
He told the deputy he had a bad day. A short time later, the Garfield Township Police Chief Jerry Cannon arrived on the scene. Cannon is the former sheriff of Kalkaska County. Cannon knows Stevenson and can be heard talking to the deputy and Stevenson.
I can take responsibility for it. I know you got to do what you got to do.
So you've got this fucking former sheriff coming in to stick up for this guy who's caught drunk, almost run off the road.
That was said before sobriety tests were performed. The police report shows Stevenson had trouble with the test. He worried he wouldn't pass a preliminary breath test. He can be heard asking the two not to arrest him.
Jesus Christ, I'm a sheriff.
I know.
Central 4031 status.
I'm a officer.
Again, like these are the people who are entrusted to enforce these bullshit laws. And here he is, pissy ass drunk, can't even pass a sobriety test, begging the police, invoking the thin blue line to secure his ability and his freedom to drive drunk on icy roads.
A portable breathalyzer test was given, and Stevenson's reading came in at .23, above the super drunk limit of .17.
Jesus Christ.
Stevenson again asked Van Sloten and Cannon to not place him under arrest. Cannon did make a phone call, walked away for a bit, but eventually came back saying Stevenson had to go to jail. It's not clear who he called. Stevenson apologizes to Van Sloten for putting her in this position, and the deputy could be heard several times saying she was sorry, but there was nothing she nor Cannon could do.
It was called in. It was over the radio.
In the end, Stevenson was arrested and taken to the Kalkaska County Jail.
I made a poor choice. I drank too much today.
And you own it, and people understand.
Stevenson pleaded guilty last Thursday to operating a motor vehicle while visibly impaired. He was placed on probation for a year and fined. He has apologized to the public for what happened.
So anybody else would be in fucking jail. Drive with the fucking .233 blood alcohol level. That's fucking outrageous. Oh, here's one. DEA agent accused of buying illegal drugs.
Told the FBI that Erie would meet up with what the complaint calls his oxy source and purchase all of the oxycodone that source had. He said Erie started using the drug because he had back problems, and he warned the trooper to slow down, otherwise he'd get addicted. These pictures of Erie we're about to show here are when he was named FHP Trooper of the Year back in 2009. He's been a state trooper for 22 years and joined the DEA Drug Enforcement Task Force back in 2020. Court records show Erie was the designated handler of the oxy source before the FBI says he began purchasing drugs from him. Erie and that source texted and called each other nearly 8,000 times in the past 3 years, according to cell phone records. Our crime and safety analyst Mark Bachman, a former DEA agent, knew Erie from a few cases they worked on together over the years, and he has concerns this will jeopardize Erie's recent cases.
Any involvement where he was either handling evidence, giving statements, testifying, something that would be directly related to a defendant where it could, his integrity or the case could be called into question on the actions that he was doing during an investigation would be definitely called into question and probably be reviewed.
I did reach out to Erie. My call went straight to voicemail. I also reached out to his...
I imagine it did. This is the fucking kicker. You have an ex-police union executive who was literally smuggling fucking fentanyl. Fentanyl. The shit that's killing thousands of people every month in this country. Yeah, somebody that is entrusted to represent the interests of the police was trafficking it.
Disturbing story. The director of the San Jose Police Officers Association now facing drug charges. She's accused of trafficking fentanyl here in the Bay Area.
Court documents say that the union director was buying and selling the drug right under the nose of the Police Officers Association. KRON 4's Michael Thomas is live in San Jose with the details. What an incredible story.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Lots to unpack here. The woman in question is 64 years old, and she's worked here at the Police Association for 20 years. The feds say almost half that time she spent buying and selling illegal drugs from outside the country, distributing them across the U.S. and the Bay Area, all while using the association's UPS account. Take a look. This is who we're talking about.
You're using the fucking Police Association's UPS account to fucking deal in fentanyl?
64-year-old Joanne Segovia. She's been the executive director for the San Jose Police Association since 2003 and is now the center of Homeland Security's international produced drug shipments case.
You've got fucking Karen out here slanging.
Shipments case. According to court documents, she was dealing drugs and receiving shipments of them from places like Hong Kong, Hungary, and India, then shipping them across the U.S. Since when, you ask? Well, 2015, using both her home address and her work address. The feds say some of those packages were seized and opened, allegedly filled with thousands of pills, labeled with things like wedding party favors and gift makeup. The feds say she used a Cash App account for payments with not only her name that was linked, but also her work email. She now faces charges for importing and exporting opioids like fentanyl.
I'm sorry, but this woman was running a horrible drug ring. But this is the most boomer shit I've ever heard. This lady was 64 years old, right? She doesn't even have enough sense to make a private email for her fucking hustle. She uses her work email and her personal email for this. This is the most boomer I can't open PDF file shit I have ever seen.
No, we spoke with a retired Superior Court judge and a former auditor of the San Jose Police Department who had this to say about the case.
Raises a lot of questions, and the issue is, why didn't they know? And if they have...
They didn't know because she's white and she looks like she bakes cakes, not fentanyl pills.
Anyone who is in charge of looking at the finances, checking the records and the books, it would seem that someone would have noticed that this was happening. So that's the concern here. So I think that the Police Officers Association has a lot of explaining to do.
The San Jose Mayor, Matt Maheen, also commented saying, quote, "This is an incredibly disturbing allegation. No one is above the law, regardless of who their employer is. I want to thank U.S. Attorney Ramsey and his colleagues for aggressively pursuing the sources of fentanyl coming into our communities and holding drug dealers accountable." Now, according to...
Why don't you just say fucking drug dealers who worked for our fucking pig union? Let's see what's going on with the UAW. Let's break from the pigs behaving badly for a second. Because nobody gives a shit. Everybody knows cops are crooked. Let's see what else is going on. Practice pickets. I'm constantly I'm always amazed at how well developed and strategic this is. Union contracts for 150,000 UAW members at the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis expire at 11 p.m., 11:59 p.m. on Thursday. On Friday, our members at Local 376 in Windsor, Connecticut, and Local 422 in Mansfield, Massachusetts will be picketing, whether on strike or just practicing. Join us to show your solidarity. RSVP at Linktree/UAW Region 9A. Oh, yeah. You got a fucking Tesla bot down here. Weirdos. CWA, Communications Workers in Solidarity. SAG-AFTRA in solidarity. Everybody's in solidarity. You love to see it. I love to sleep. So, I'll be back tomorrow night talking about what's going on in Strike World, and maybe I'll have a surprise. What's a surprise? I'm not going to tell you. Anyways, peace.